Hello, we are Citrus and we're solving the problem that current diagnostic technologies cannot diagnose Lyme disease before permanent symptoms develop. We want to tell you a true story about Tina, a woman who suffers from chronic Lyme disease because of the lack of effective diagnostic solutions. Tina was bitten by a tick carrying Lyme disease in June 2016. By the third week of July, she started experiencing the early symptoms of Lyme disease. After an ER visit, she was prescribed 2 weeks of antibiotics, then told to take the FDA-approved blood test. Tina was fortunate enough to develop Lyme disease's only identifiable symptom, the bullseye rash, which reportedly only appears in 9% of cases. Had Tina not developed the rash, her symptoms would have mimicked 350 other diseases. Tina's blood test came back falsely negative. She was tested during stage 1, where people may develop flu-like symptoms and the bullseye rash. By stage 2, people develop potentially permanent neurological issues such as facial paralysis, numbness, memory loss, chronic headaches, fatigue, and arthritis. Due to being misdiagnosed, Tina made it to stage 3, where severe symptoms like speech issues, fainting, and heart inflammation can cure. Current tests are only effective after 4 to 6 weeks, which is why Tina suffered for 4 years before finally being retested in 2020. Chronic Lyme disease has huge financial implications for those who suffer from it. 42% of people report having to quit their jobs as a result of Lyme disease, with 25% reporting being on disability. Tina is not alone. This is no longer a rare disease from the 20th century. It's estimated in 2008 that 300,000 people were infected, and predictions show that this rate would grow to 500,000 people per year by 2020. And almost 35% of these people will develop persistent symptoms due to not being treated early enough. That's 175,000 people in 2020 who will develop chronic symptoms. In fact, a study by the CDC found that the lack of accurate diagnostic tests is projected to cost Americans approximately $52 billion USD per year, when factoring in medical costs and productivity loss, or an average of $25,000 USD per patient. Additionally, the total projected amount spent on Lyme disease tests in the US for 2020 will be over $1 billion USD. However, Lyme disease is not just an American problem. It affects people all around the world, with Europe seeing a 14% increase in confirmed cases per year since 1990. In fact, using the CDC's estimate that only 10% of cases get reported, Europe sees a similar number of cases per year as North America. Lyme disease is a global problem that affects people of all ages and sexes. Based on insurance claims, however, it is twice as prevalent in women than men. Lyme disease is not new. It is around since the early 70s when residents in Lyme, Connecticut started presenting mysterious neurological symptoms. The disease is caused by Borrelia, a spiral-shaped bacteria that is transferred to humans by deer tick bites. Ticks lurk in grassy areas such as parks, hiking trails, and even people's backyards, waiting for an animal or person to come close enough to bite. The tick population is growing across North America and Europe, since ticks are moving to previously inhospitable regions due to global warming. Historically, awareness for Lyme disease both societally and medically has been abysmally low. More than 50% of patients report visiting upwards of 5 different doctors before getting diagnosed. On top of that, Lyme disease is one of the least funded diseases by the National Institute of Health. In 2016, it received almost a third as much funding as hepatitis C, while having more than triple the incidence rate. When Lyme disease was first discovered, it was diagnosed by the characteristic bullseye-shaped rash. By 1995, a 2-tiered antibody assay blood test was approved by the FDA to confirm the diagnosis. It is still the standard test in use today. In the 2010s, a lumbar puncture test was made to detect the more severe form of the disease, Lyme meningitis. In the same period, a company called iGeneX also released a more accurate standard commercial test. Currently, research is being done to miniaturize the standard test and to explore different forms of diagnostics, such as the PCR test. All current technologies have failed to address the major shortcomings of diagnosing Lyme disease. They lack the capability to diagnose someone early enough to prevent the development of permanent symptoms, including brain damage. They're expensive, costing up to $700 USD for blood tests and up to $3,000 USD for a spinal tap. Additionally, getting blood drawn or a spinal tap is invasive and painful. On top of that, the latest research is mainly addressing the invasiveness of the test by miniaturizing it. The research into reducing the delay has been focused on the PCR test, which is currently only 30% accurate since there's not a large amount of bacterial DNA in blood. From a survey conducted on 11,000 Lyme patients, 70% of patients did not get diagnosed till the late stage, where effective treatment is substantially harder. 72% were misdiagnosed and may have been unnecessarily treated for another disease, with 37% of the registered patients claiming they've received a false negative result. Unfortunately, the scale of Lyme disease doesn't stop at its financial impact, since you cannot put a dollar value on the amount of human suffering it causes. We've reached out to many people that live with chronic Lyme disease. All of them have had their quality of life permanently diminished. We are Citrus, and we believe it's unacceptable that people continue to suffer due to the inadequacies of the current diagnostic tests.